Yes, ma'am, we're ready when you are.
Everybody ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody ready? I now call the meeting of the Winterville Town Council to order. Okay. We'll start off with our invocation. Lisa?
If you will, pray with me. Father God, we thank you for the opportunity to come together this evening and the privilege to serve this wonderful community. We thank you, Lord, for everybody who is here. We ask that you grant us your discernment and your wisdom and help us to do that which is best for our community. Now, God, we ask that you bless the hands that prepared our meal this evening and that you let it be nourishment to our bodies. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everyone to our meeting tonight. It's our second budget meeting, and we're going to be looking at how we can best use the funds in the town of Winterville for the benefit of our citizens. All right, we'll go to the roll call.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. I'll start with Councilwoman Harrell.
Present.
Councilwoman Hawkins.
Present.
Councilman Moy.
Present.
Councilwoman Smith.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Robertson.
Present.
And the mayor Mayor Hines is absent this evening.
All right. We do have a quorum, so we can go on with our business. We've looked at the agenda. What is your pleasure?
Make a motion. Make a motion to approve the agenda.
And I second.
Motion by Dr. Brandy Harrell, seconded by Councilwoman Smith. Ready for the question? Question? Ready for the vote? All in favor? Raise your hand. Unanimous vote, so no. All right, it calls for a break for dinner right here, so we'll stop. And Councilwoman Smith so nicely did a grace during the prayer, so we won't need another. Anyway, we eat.
Okay. Everyone, dinner is in the break room.
The agenda has been approved, so we're down to our item for discussion. The fiscal year 2026-2027 recommended budget.
Oh, I'm coming, Ms. Robertson. If you want. Okay, good evening. Let me just give many thanks to staff because everybody was working right up to the time that the meeting was called to order, so I appreciate everyone's help. It's been a day trying to see what we could do with respect to the budget and see what we could cut in terms of some of our overages. So you do have either digitally, which was sent right before the meeting, or for those of you that have a hard copy, you do have updated revenue and expenditure sheets, as well as an updated budget message, and I believe there's a hard copy of the budget message for everybody. Thank you, Kim. You also have a couple of extra pieces of information. Councilwoman Hawkins, last meeting you had asked for the changes in the budget amendments that changed the general fund balance unrestricted from 12.4 to 8.1. And so we've had 6 budget amendments. I've highlighted in yellow the general fund allocations. And then on the very back page, which would be on page in Budget Amendment 6 at the bottom in my handwriting, you'll see the total of the actual, what we allocated in the 25-26 budget, as well as the 6 budget amendments. So we're happy to answer any questions, but for everyone, between the allocation to balance the general fund for the 25-26 year, in addition to 6 budget amendments affecting the general fund and fund balance appropriation, we have spent an additional, we have spent $4,285,000.
So my question is, when we received the summary, maybe 2 months ago, it was at 12.4, unassigned funds, 12.4 million. The expenditure of, as you shared, balancing the budget as well as other allocations, did that happen after that, or from at this point in time, from when we were provided? And is that located in here, the expenditures?
So I believe that the number you were provided when we did the budget recap was the audited June 30, 2025 number. So that's what the auditors had looked at and had calculated for the end of June 2025. So that would have been for the 24-25 budget, that 12.4 million number. So during the course of this budget year, which started July 5th, 2025, and will end at the end of June, that's when these individualized transactions took place.
Okay, thank you. I wish that that was shared at that time, because the assumption was that the 12.4 million unassigned was present, and then we looked at some prospective expenditures when we had the special call meeting, but thank you for sharing, and that those expenditures are noted in this packet that we received from the 2025 through June, from June 30th, 2025 to the present. The 4 million
Yes, it started, everything happened in this fiscal year that we're currently in, July 1st forward. And yes, you'll see the individualized
Thank you.
expenditures that are denoted in the general fund departments. So if you have any questions when you look over it, just
Thank
let
you.
us know. You will see one budget amendment, and I believe that is Budget Amendment 4, that did not have any effect on the general fund, fund balance at all. So everything else, I do believe, had some effect on the general fund balance fund balance.
And where can I reference the total at this time, the -4, the exact total? Where's that reference?
Which total?
Is it 9 million at this time in unassigned funds?
It should be around 8.1, and if you'll look in tab number 9, you should, it's the fund balances and retained earnings sheet, which should be about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages back, maybe. Let me know when you get there. It says Town of Winterville, fund balances and retained earnings. Everybody there? So if you'll
I
take,
see it.
Councilwoman Hawkins, you found it?
I have it. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
So if you'll see on that particular sheet, at the total unassigned, 8,126,457. And Jessica, that's as of,
That's current, that's,
okay,
but we'll have another budget amendment.
yes. We'll have one more before the end of the budget year, which may affect the $8.1 million number.
But that is current as of today.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And as you all are going through the various budget amendments, though you had them in your packets, you know, when they were approved, if you have any questions, please reach out, and we'll be more than happy to try to help. You also have, as we talked about, looking at COLA and merit, I printed off the North Carolina League of Municipality report that they send out. I don't know what I've done with mine. Here it is. And you'll see for the entities that responded, they've broken it out between COLA and merit responses for the upcoming budget year and what people were including in their respective budgets. You'll see a few pages back, they do have it broken down by the actual sized organizations. So I do think if you look at, we normally look at between 10,000 population and 24,999, as well as 25,900, that 99,999 populations. And the reason we look at those two is because we do pull from, in terms of employment, et cetera, from jurisdictions in both of those population classifications. So you'll see that there's a range for those two with respect to planned merit. So I just gave it to you so you could sort of look at it. Also, staff has taken our salaries and put together a table which outlines a 1% incremental cost for each fund for both COLA as well as merit. So that's for your information.
Where is that located?
I have it in a table, and I can make that available for everyone.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, if we could then reference our updated budget message. I think that's what we're gonna rely on to try to tell you where we are. Where are we generally? Well, we have culled about half of our $10 million deficit across all funds down to a little over $5 million. And so, as you'll see in the budget message, as of tonight, we're still unbalanced across all funds. We still have a 5% COLA and a 2% merit for employees, but now that we have put some numbers together, we'll certainly look at, and we have some idea of what folks around us are doing. I think we probably could look at scaling back the cost of living to somewhere around 3.5, which is close to what the last 12 months or the CPI index has been. And then we'll look at what other places are doing for merit. Again, we have kept the health insurance increase as the town has absorbed the whole thing, and we do have currently the $8.20 increase for sewer. So if we could turn over to page 2, you'll see that as it stands right now, the general fund is out of balance by $2.2 million. So departments they made some cuts. What you're gonna see is that there were 4.5 positions requested in the general fund, and those have all been cut out. What we've done is we've taken and tried to keep most of the equipment purchases and plan to finance them. You do still see, and Mayor Pro Tem Robertson, we've still got to add in the in-kind the senior citizen group. Y'all will have to apologize, any typos and whatnot, because we were rolling this thing up to the last minute. But the senior citizen in-kind of the space at the community room, and we'll include that in our bullets. But again, you'll see that the in-kind is shown here, Shepherd is still shown here. That's going to change moving forward. I know the mayor sent out an email to council regarding a potential discussion or further discussion about the chamber. Staff's ready to assist council in that if you also choose to move forward with that. But moving forward, recreation revenue is, or the recreation fund is out of balance by $143,609. Most of that, again, comes from the general fund. So in order to balance the recreation fund, if no additional changes are made, that would be adding $143,609 to the general fund deficit. Okay. Down in the enterprise fund summary, our electric fund is out of balance by $1.5 million. Water fund is out of balance by $920,000. Sewer fund is out of balance by $374,000. And stormwater fund is out of balance by $224,000. So the total across all funds of the request versus the revenue to cover those requests is $5,421,750. What you don't see in this version 2 is the appropriation of any fund balance and or retained earnings. And I offer, as always, for Jessica and or Anthony to jump in. Staff, if you have anything, let me know. I will say the most challenging fund that we have right now, because we do not have enough retained earnings / fund balance to cover the amount that's out of balance, is the water fund. And you all know that fund has, as well as sewer, has struggled for some time. And again, the only way to increase, revenues is to raise the rates. And we've looked at the water fund in terms of, just to remind everyone, we've got some cost share agreements that the town has approved for some of these developments out here. And those amounts that the town will owe in these cost share agreements has to be paid for. So you will see the cost share agreements referenced in the capital outlay line item, last four numbers, 7150, in both the water fund and the sewer fund. Anthony, you want to go over those, will you? Just what they are.
The water fund, you have the water line cost share agreement that is Southbrook. Especially when they're starting for money, but it's also going to save the town long-term scope of the project as a result of being able to enter into that cost share. So the cost share agreement with Southbrook Development for the water fund is that was that 10-inch line that we talked about earlier. In the sewer fund, there were basically two items there. One that we've committed to with the increase of the wet well and the size of some of the force main in that development. But there's also a need to increase the gravity and change some of the plans as it is scheduled today to handle the property to the north and south. Yeah. So essentially, that is regionalization. I mean, and that was the intent, is to when we look at regionalization, those cost share agreements really save us a lot of money down the road, but they, as anything, they have a cost up front.
Thank you. So the question is, how are we going to balance these various funds? And again, I think what we have historically done in the more recent years is to take fund balance from the various fund and use that to balance that particular fund. The one fund that we would not be able to do that with is the water fund. Because if you look at the sheet that I've referenced behind tab 9, I don't know if you got yours out, but you'll see that the current amount of available for appropriation in the enterprise fund, we call them retained earnings, but I'll use fund balance for the purpose of discussion. We have $747,082, and the fund is out of balance by $920,271. And Cliff, I don't know if you want to reference any reasons, and things that have gone up in cost in terms of why things are more than they were previous year.
Yeah. So like we know, most everything has gone up in cost in the past few years. I don't know of anything that's come down. Some materials for these projects we're doing have, I'll say, taken a step back, but they're still 5 or 6 times higher than they were when we started. I don't know much else we could do to, I guess, absorb any of the cost, but I mean, we're running pretty thin already. You got to think, as a small town with our surrounding areas, I think Anthony's touched on this before. You take Aiden, has more employees than us and they provide less services, have a smaller service area. Other smaller towns have a bigger workforce. So our guys and girls pull a whole lot of weight, I'll say, for what they do, and they do a great job across, I feel like, all departments. But I would say our rates are, as Terry touched on, struggling. I mean, and our water service area is so small. I know our town you think of as big, but a lot of our town that we serve is outside of our water service area. So every time you build a subdivision across Highway 11 in certain areas, or, the new addition out there at Villa Grande, half of Eli's Ridge that's coming will be in the Eastern Pine service area. a lot of the land that's going under contract around us is in Eastern Pines or Bell Arthur service area. So that fund really relies on the rate structure that I think we really need to look at. And to give you a general idea, we're around 4,500 water service customers. So, I mean, there's not a lot to pull from there. So if you raise the base rate $3, sounds like a lot of money, but Anthony and them can tell you it's not gonna generate a ton of revenue. That'd be roughly $13,500. So to let you know, this rate's kind of been lacking for a long time, and we're at a point now that you just do or die. I mean, you can't pull from savings anymore. You've spent everything you got.
Thanks, Cliff, and I think that it even stresses the point more so that a plan that council helps staff put together where there's ongoing incremental increases is the way to go. Now, the problem is, we've been so long without substantial increases, except to pay for debt service on a particular project, that we're gonna have to play catch up a little bit in the beginning. So if you take the fund balance sheet that's contained in tab 9, and you just look at what the available balances are, you'll see that sewer currently shows a negative $488,000. I'm gonna let Jessica and Anthony explain that, because it looks like we're almost $500,000 in the hole in our actual amount for appropriation, but I don't think that's quite the case.
That's associated with the project, we cash flow that, and so as we reimburse the state, that comes out.
What is the amount that
That was an $8 million project, so it depends on where we were with the cash flow as of June 30th. So all the financial statements are as of June 30th, so they have to pick one point in time. So when you do the financial statements as of June 30th, so that would have happened. We've got substantial reimbursement since the project started with Winterville. They request a slowdown. We're probably working on a file.
any estimate, and I know it's a guesstimate, of what final reimbursement might be like it's going to cover the deficit and at least bring us even, maybe?
See, where does it put us back with fund balance?
Well, with the sewer deficit, you said that we're looking for a final reimbursement, is that correct?
I mean, the, I wouldn't want to give you a number,
That's fine,
off
I
the top of my
understand.
head, I don't want to misstate something.
I understand, but we do have some reimbursement coming,
Yes, ma'am.
but we're not sure what it
I mean,
would be.
the project was 100% funded through a DEQ loan, and then $500,000 debt forgiveness. So there is, once that's caught up, then that fund balance will go back to a more normal situation.
But even with reimbursement, I think you can see, due to the amount of fund balance in both water and sewer, you know, Cliff's right, it's something staff's been saying, we've definitely got to look at our rate structure and get it where it needs to be. So water, even though we have challenges in all the funds, in order to try to cover the unbalanced portions, water's the one that I would think stands out the most, because obviously we need more than there is in retained earnings to cover. Jessica, Anthony, I don't know if you want to add to that, but.
So I have another question. Something that has been brought up previously was possibly looking at system development fees that are charged to developers as they come in. Where do we stand in that in comparison? Like, what are our fees? Do we know what might be a reasonable increase? What kind of revenue that might bring into what fund? Like, what would that help?
So our system development fees are currently on our water and sewer system only. And they were adopted about 50% of the allowable amount by state statute. That amount was calculated by the Wooten Company with a cost study that was done on, and so the general statute also determines that this rate has to be calculated by either an engineering firm or CPA firm. So it's not a situation where we can do it in-house. But we did adopt it, and it has brought in quite a bit of revenue over the years since we started. I think it's been implemented about for 4 years now. And so if you want to increase those, that is an option. I will say, when we adopted it, we did look at the market in the area, what the town of Ayden and Greenwood Utilities in the city were, or Greenwood Utilities were charging at their time. And so I think the council at that time chose to be a little in line with the market versus what we were allowed to do by general statute.
I think in terms of actually seeing it as a revenue line item in the budget, Anthony and I talked about it, and it is hard to pin down when a project's on the table and it's going through its various stages when the fees will be paid. So I think they've been shown along as amended as they come in. So we're not at a point yet. We've been able to pinpoint when those fees come in to make that a revenue stream, if you will, in the budgetary process. Because as you all are probably aware, we can talk and plan and meet on a project in its initial stages for, gosh, many, many months, and sometimes more than a year, or even longer, depending on the actual project and what's entailed and how the developer's doing and how fast they want to go, et cetera.
Terry,
I have a question. When we're thinking about increases in rates due to, I guess, the service needs of water, and as we get, again, more population, more developments coming in, more population, more people, what are we thinking about in terms of equity, right? If the citizens are having to pay for the increase of services, the increase of infrastructure, what is the equity in terms of the benefit to our citizens, as opposed to, what can we tell our citizens as opposed to, this is where we are, our town is growing, our services are growing, but where is the investments and how is that being balanced? Again, for example, Central Winterville, what is being invested in that area, because they are going to also get an increase if an increase arises. And then also in terms of developments coming in, and when I spoke about incentives, and I know Assistant Town Manager Bowers shared that there's by statute a limitation. We have to come up with a way, because I feel like we are in a place where we're borrowing or we're getting slighted to pay for developments coming in. We're growing, but are we able to hold that growth without continuously billing everybody the same, but everybody is everybody getting the same benefit of it? So that's what I have to say while we are deliberating or talking about it. When we talk about sewer and repayments or payments that will be made, or payments that will become up to date at a certain point, is there a timeline for that? Is that 5 years, 10 year, 20 year? And do we have a capital improvement plan that we can actually see? And when was that capital improvement plan created? And are we on course for it? That is my questions that has come to my mind when we're talking about prospective increases to the whole town of Winterville. That's what I mean.
Okay, I'll try to start off, and then I may ask Anthony to jump in. So we strive to ensure that when work needs to be done, particularly if it's work that encompasses upgrading and/or repairing existing infrastructure that serves the town, that, that comes from the rates that everyone pays. In terms of anything that would allow for growth, that's hopefully taken and paid for through the system development fees. Those are supposed to be used for capital needs, and it's a balancing act. But certainly, a lot of these projects that we're working on has, I would say, a two-piece component, if you will. It's fixing and making sure our existing infrastructure is where it should be and continues to function well, as well as when we can, in these cost share agreements and other types of relationships where we can actually partner and then pay for some of the updates that are needed to handle some of the growth. I will say that over time, the goal is that the rates pay for the existing water system for everybody that receives the water. Of course, we're buying the majority of our water. We're no longer making it. We're buying it from Greenville Utilities through an agreement that was a 20-year agreement. I don't remember when that comes to an end, but it's
36.
I think, yeah, okay, 36, so 10 years from now. And of course, what we're paying them, I mean, we're paying them a wholesale price, and we got what I consider to be, and hopefully staff would consider to be, a really good deal. Don't know that it'll look that good the next time we have to negotiate it, but due to the restrictions on pulling well water, groundwater out of the aquifers, everybody was subject in this area to a reduction. So again, we only have so much control over what it cost us to purchase. Anthony, I'll let you.
Yeah, I can speak to the CIP. There is a water CIP that was adopted a few years ago. In fact, that's how we were able to get some of the grant money for making the water line improvements in the looping project. We also recently adopted just last month the sewer CIP. Which was quite extensive. I think there was like $54 million worth of projects over 10 years that need to be funded. And then we also had the stormwater CIP that we presented 2 months prior. Electric Fund is currently working on a CIP. So all of the utilities will have either a fairly recent and current update CIP in the near future. With that being said, that is a planning tool. We can only work with what we have as far as available funds to make the projects happen. It's a situation of each fund is different. Each utility is unique. For example, not all of our water customers, not all residents are our water customers. In other words, our water service area is different from our electric service area, and our electric service area is different from our sewer service area. And all of that is different from our citizenry, taxpayers. So each fund has a unique set of situations and circumstances that affect how it operates and its future. One thing in the water fund, while you do have something as pressing as a new water contract with GUC, you also have a finite area for which that system can grow. And so even though the town may grow, they're going to be on Eastern Pines or Bell Arthur's water system and not ours because of territory agreements that were established a long time ago. Sewer, on the other hand, different story. Electric has a finite area based on an agreement with GUC as well, which is much larger than the area for water. So all that to be said, that's how you end up with different situations in each fund. And obviously rate structures, and studies and analysis are affected by the capital improvements program, and each one of those build into the other, and they should all be used together to develop rates that are sufficient for the town to have good quality water and sewer you can rely on, electricity you can rely on.
Ms. Hawkins, I'll add, when you ask what we're doing, if you remember back to Farmstead when I begged y'all not to give that service area away, this is the reason why. Because that money, that revenue is gone now forever. So in these territories we decide to keep in town, it's very important. Any services we can provide, we provide. That way, those meters, electric meters, water meters, those are our cash registers. That's how you make your money. And that's why it was very painful for me to watch our revenue basically be handed away. And that's just a raw answer for you from the operating department side.
But you do have to consider the cost of getting the
Yes, ma'am.
service there,
Yes.
so.
Mhm.
So I just want to share, when we talk about Farmstead, that was something that I learned of along the way, that something took place prior to me, prior to the councils before me, where it was agreed upon that there would be a shared, I guess, annexation. I don't have information in front of me, but nobody could come up with documentation to dispute it, right? So these persons were promised something, and then no one had documentation to dispute it. So that is one instance. But when we talk about a variety of instances all over the place, I'm speaking to the fact that if we are building, yes, we are building, and we're responsible for the water and our land, and it's on our properties, where is there equity in terms of, I know there's upgrades, there's repair, but where is revitalization? Where is a plan in place that can help to renew properties that have been the foundation of Winterville? So, and it is okay to increase rates when everybody is getting a benefit from it. But if some people are not getting any benefit and others are, in fact, new developments are coming in, you know, we need to speak to that too, because we cannot act like areas that are not being revitalized or built do not exist, because they still pay and they still need the same benefits. That is what I'm speaking of. And that is why every time when new developments come in, I say, well, how will the town be incentivized? What are the benefits to those that are here? And although it's been a while, or there's a need for an increase, we just had a power cost adjustment. We're getting a sewer rate increase. And so now we're speaking of a water rate increase. That is just, at the end of the day, and also I am a citizen as well and have to pay these bills as well. So that is where my question lies, and on behalf of those who wish to ask the question as well.
I'd like to go back to Town Manager Parker. You were speaking about the reserves, paying from, fund balance and all the things. I do agree with, utilizing, or I support the responsible use of our reserves when it helps us navigate, one-time use and things of that nature. But it seems like what I've heard is there has been a moratorium, so to speak, or a pause or a freeze on rate increases over the years. And as Cliff says, now we're in a situation where it's do or die. We have to charge at $8, where in which I do feel as a citizen, as Councilwoman Hawkins says, who pays bills, that we should be in a place where we can gradually increase because of the landscape of America. Everything is going up, but right now, since there has not been an increase in years, now we have to say, you know what, we have to charge $8 or whatever the case may be. But I also would like us to kind of look at if and when we do have to use the reserves, is this something that, I don't want us to be reliant, like structurally on that, because, you know, then there won't be anything to utilize. And with that being said, it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, historically, maybe that has been what has been utilized as far as covering costs instead of, you know, bringing in the allocation or increases gradually over the years, because is our operating water budget balanced without reserve? You know, those are type of questions, you know, moving forward, because June 1st, I hate to keep using this, but is quote unquote do or die. You know, you have to kind of figure this thing out now, when hopefully, you know, once this is done, as a council and with staff, we can figure out how allocations and increases can move forward in a way that is incremental instead of, again, I understand the $8. I understand all the increases because that's what's gonna generate more revenue. Also, I gotta put this plug in about the multicultural or cultural or the multipurpose center or something that brings different avenues or streams of income to our town, with concerts, with, you know, basketball, baseball, all these different, we have baseball, but different tournaments and different things for people to do. And then also, you know, office hubs, you know, supporting all of our businesses in our town. And so I know I've said a lot, but I kind of, you know, kind of wanted to go back to the reserve piece, because you know, relying on it for a structural time, that just does not sit well with me.
Thank you. I will say that those council persons that have been with me a long time that I've been here have heard me say, and others say, that that is not the way you balance your budget. Unfortunately, when we have those tough years and the costs don't go down of doing business, they continue to go up. That's why, and I believe, Dr. Harrell, Councilwoman Harrell, you asked early on when you got on the board, why haven't we hired additional employees and why haven't we done some of these things? Well, because honestly, in order to make the numbers work and to stay fiscally sound, we have continued to do the work with a small group of people. Nonetheless, you are correct, and I think that this is no negative reflection on prior councils, but I think that there's a lot of pride in when elected officials can feel like they're protecting the citizens and their pocketbooks. Unfortunately, though, let's just say we never grew another person in terms of our population. Those costs, as they come on, the more people you have to pay into the cost, obviously the lower you can keep the costs across the board. I think that it's that ever-present balance of trying to grow responsibly, but at the same time, make sure that you're not putting the cost of new development on the backs of the citizens who already live here. So I think we do that well, but I do think our rate structure, taxes, that's part of the rate structure when I mention it, that a plan needs to be put in place where we're looking at increases. We've had increases in water sewer, but they're project specific.
Right.
It's like the 820, it's for debt service on a specific project. But we need generalized increases in order to be able to pay for the operation and maintenance, including new employees in the future, et cetera, so.
Right. And I just want to say this for the record, in no way am I speaking negatively about prior council members. I'm just looking at the, you know, the holistic approach.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And it's just, you know, again, lessons learned. But I do think, you know, once we get to the point that the budget is balanced in the way that we have to at this point, you know, yes, all the workshops that we're talking about is great, but we really have to hone in and look at how rates and all the things can be incrementally increased, and look at, you know, our budget, because it is my hope that next year this time the council will not be, you know, with the backs up against the wall type deal.
I'm afraid it won't be next year. I think we're gonna be, you know, a couple or more years out before,
Well, at
that's
least
the
not this
case.
bad, right? Well, I'm not gonna say bad, not this, amount, not bad, but this,
I do think the
amount.
next few years are gonna be challenging, because I think I said in our previous meeting, the budgets that were submitted, for all intents and purposes, were some of the leanest I had seen, and, you know, we're gonna have a few years to try to get straight, and it's gonna take us a while, particularly in general fund, before we're ever able to balance that fund, without using additional,
Right.
revenues, and I hate to say it that way, but of course, that fund doesn't necessarily generate money.
Right.
The others operate more like a business, so, I do think that I appreciate the comments, because it's important and it's true. And I think that, what Cliff said, in some respects, is very true, in that we've done it, and now we've got a couple of funds where we really just can't afford to keep doing it without some additions in our rate structure.
And I think, you know, of course, meetings like this, and even in our monthly meetings, maybe just making announcements or just bringing our citizens up to speed in a transparent way. So once we get to meetings such as this, it won't be, you know, a jump scare or, you know, like a shock. Oh my gosh, you know, look at the budget and things of that nature. Thank you.
Thank you.
So may I ask, before we move forward, Terry, when we looked at the sanitation rates, staff did a great job of pulling together what each of the, like some of our surrounding, fairly similar municipalities were charging, things like that. Could we potentially do that for each of our other utility areas, get that information so we can make informed decisions and choices, and maybe look at structuring an incremental increase schedule, if that's what it comes down to?
You do have that behind tab 9. It is a comparison to the other jurisdictions around us, Farmville, Aden. I'm trying to read through these
Page
glasses,
115.
Greenville. It's just before,
The digital is 115, but I don't know.
oh, okay, great, great.
Paper copy.
So in the paper copy, it would be the last page before the filler page for non-town agency funding requests. So if we need to expand the comparison area, please let us know, but I think comparing is important, because I think citizens do that routinely. However, we all are very different communities. So I will say sanitation without question. We're still far from where we need to be with sanitation. It's just not even close. And I realize that that's one that people really, really struggle with, hence the reduction in the amount of recycling schedule that we offer. However, again, one of the options for reducing cost is cutting services. I'm not proposing that, but it's an option. But if you're going to continue to offer the fantastic services that we offer, then the costs need to more accurately reflect what it costs for the business. And again, we think about the GFL contract, but I would be remiss if I didn't recall council's attention to the plethora of things the town picks up, and the cost of that, and the equipment maintenance, and I'll use the, which truck's been in the shop for 100 years? The vac truck. That's one that, Cliff, approximately how much have we spent? I know we're not done yet. This year. Not to put you on the spot.
$30,000, and the problem's still not fixed. They came last week, said they had to order another part. Anthony remembers, you all may or may not know, that truck had issues. It was basically cut in half, sent back to the factory. It's never been correct from day one. That's nobody's fault. That's just a manufacturer defect that we were, unfortunate to inherit. But that truck, I mean, you're $600,000 to get a new one, much like a fire truck or anything. I mean, those trucks aren't cheap, and they are the livelihood when you need them. I mean, there's no other thing that'll get you out of the situation. So, I mean, that truck isn't old, but it truly is probably the most problematic piece of equipment we have, and there's no repair on it that's $2,000 or $3,000. I mean, everything you do is in the thousands and thousands of dollars. And we're also bound by service area. So there's only one person that can work on that truck because they service this territory. Other departments may see the same thing. I mean, as simple as buying brushes for our street sweeper, you know, they went from $75 to $178 a piece in less than 6 months. There's nothing we can do about it because nobody else can sell to us per territory agreements. So things like that are just astronomical when it comes to maintaining this equipment, which is another reason that it's very important to look at rates and keep that on the back burner of what do we need to do. And Ms. Hawkins, I can tell you, we're being as frugal as we can with these things. We run them till they wear a slam out, which is why recently we got a bunch of new equipment in Public Works because a lot of our stuff was early 2000s, 2005, 2006. So that did add some additional cost recently that you wouldn't see. It would have historically been, you know, replaced along the way, but I mean, we try to get all we can out of it.
In Cliff's got surfaces, we can look at the levels that we offer. Simultaneously, Chief Moore, Chief, you've had one truck, if not more than one, that has been out of service. Did we? But it has been in a state of disrepair numerous times during this past fiscal year, and Chief's services can't be pared down. You know, when they get called, they must go. So again, it's an ever-present, I mean, that is an option, reduction in service. So as we're looking at these tough decisions moving forward, I don't want you to think that I'm only talking about increases, because obviously reduction in services like solid waste, certainly not fire services. Talking to Mike.
We're gonna have some of the same issues, as we have these overlapping calls at one time. We're gonna have to look at the types of calls that we respond to.
Correct.
It's gonna be inevitable.
Well, and I guess when I meant level of service, I mean your response to your
Right.
structure, you know,
Right.
to the intense things that you all are here for. But you're right, we do offer a lot of assistance for things like first response calls, et cetera. So that is not something we definitely want to come back and make a recommendation to council, but it is an option.
As we're speaking about the fire department and emergency services, I just have to say this. I was not here whenever the community fire department was, I guess, established. I'm not quite sure when, who, why, what, who thought of it, who voted for it, because what I see and what other citizens see are two fire departments almost across the street from each other, and with double the expense, and we have a town fire department that is in need. So I just needed to say that. I'm not quite sure the reasoning, the reckoning. I know I heard county, town, irregardless, if, I don't know who, what's the reasoning? Somebody help me.
So the department, the town department encompassed that department as well when I first got here. It was one department. However, funding operated at a town/county level. The county gave the volunteer component, the rural component, if you will, money, and that monies were, Chief, jump in if I get it wrong, those monies were overseen and directed by a volunteer board that sort of sat here on the side. And then you have the town department that's funded by the town, and the town has oversight over our money. Well, then you've got a person in charge of the department that contains two components funded by the town and the county's money's overseen by this separate board. Well, there were, I think, some ongoing issues, and the rural department sent us a notice that they were separating from the department. They were going out on their own. And so I had just gotten here and was given the dubious honor of working with Chief to manage that split. And it was not an easy endeavor. Then we were shocked, needless to say, when the community rural folks got permission to build a station. They already had a piece of property outside of town to build the station right down the road. So I think relationships may have improved over the years, but that was the reason, because the department split.
This also, you know, keeping the people in mind. I'm not quite sure what the politics or what was behind it, but when you have two fire departments or buildings, one street away that are separated by core, it's sad, because the people need the money in the town to service the people in the town. That is just
And
what I
Councilwoman
needed to
Hawkins,
say about that.
if I could add, when the two departments split, the department initially covered a large district that included the town of Winterville and a rural area. When the department split, the rural department took their rural area, and we were reduced to only answering in the corporate limits of the town. So that was an interesting endeavor, and I will say that Chief Moore and I, but definitely Chief Moore, because he had all the personalities to manage, that was a time. And I know it wasn't something that the council at the time took lightly, but it was sort of not started by us, and certainly did not proceed all by our decisions.
I just, thank you so much
Yes,
for
ma'am.
explaining that. I heard it before, but just.
It's
went into a little
confusing.
bit of- Yeah, it still doesn't make any sense, because people and lives and rescue and response matters first. And I just have to agree with Dr. Harrell with regards to incremental increases as opposed to whole set increases. I think citizens being more aware of why, the why behind it, as opposed to the budget meetings, and they're trying to process
Sure.
this language, which they are, some are adaptive to, but just something incremental is more easier to digest and process. And again, revitalization and equity in terms of improvement and upgrades are something that is beneficial to all.
Thank you. I mean, they're all good statements, and certainly, I think staff agrees. So where are we? I mean, obviously, staff needs to try to figure out how to bring these out of balance numbers into balance, and we think we have a plan for most of it. Water's going to be the challenge, but I don't think we have those specific answers this evening. I do know that we chatted about whether a third meeting would be necessary or not. I will leave that up to the council. I do know that staff's committed to getting the budget balanced. I mean, we have that charge. That's a mandated charge. That's what we have to do. We're happy to come back Thursday. We do have a public hearing on the 1st, so that's what, Monday? Next Monday. So we know, staff knows what we have before us. I don't know whether council would entertain a water rate increase at this juncture. It is late in the budget process, but if not this year, just know that we're probably coming with a handful of recommended increases next year. And, the tax rate, to increase that in order to balance the general fund, this council, we wouldn't recommend the amount of cents it would take, because it's numerous, and that's definitely going to take time, and that's not the only revenue source in general fund, obviously. So we've still got the ever-present challenge of trying to figure out additional ways to try to find revenue as we move forward.
As far as the tax rate, I think before we used to look at how much a penny would generate, and I know that that's changed because we have talked about the growth, but how much are we looking at for, that, because we did, stabilize it, other year, we kept it, we have the lowest tax rate in Pitt County. And that's something that we've been bragging about for a long time.
I know it's something to be proud about, but
Yes.
it doesn't pay the
Yeah.
bills.
And, I think it was 47, was it? At one-
47 and a half, I
And we
think.
cut it back to 45, so
That was during a reval year, I believe.
it was.
So if you look, again, tab 9 is where you're gonna find a lot of these schedules. So there is an annualized revenue yield figure that is right, or excuse me, page that is right, schedule that is right before the ones you were just looking at where there was a comparison with the other jurisdictions. And it lets you know what 1 cent on the property tax rate generates currently, as well as electric, water, sewer, solid waste, and stormwater. So currently, 1 cent on the current property tax rate yields at 100% collection, $136,341. What you could do, just generalized math, you could take the 1.8 million that we had to use to balance the general fund budget and divide that by your yield on 1 cent, and that could give you the potential for how many cents it would take if that were the only revenue source we utilized. And I think you would find the numbers pretty astronomical.
And then looking at the charts there, in most cases, our rates are very low compared to the other municipalities listed here. Now, water rate really is extremely low.
And Ms. Robertson, if you will, if you look at that water rate, you look at GUC's 3417, we're 2902, that's more than $5. We're having to buy that water from them and then try to resell it and make money. So just to put it in perspective, we're already $5 in the hole per customer.
Okay. Right about that.
I think Aden is 55.39 and Farmville is 62.29, and we're 29.02.
All of our rates are very, very low compared to.
Well, and every time we try to put in a funding application, I think Anthony and Jessica hears those things because, you know, when your rates are low, it doesn't show the need for necessarily for being able to be, well, definitely grants are something we're probably not gonna get a lot of just because we have a high median household income, but just to be competitive in the low interest loans. They're so competitive now, and I'll let Anthony speak
Just
to
to
that.
add to that and speak to the items that we have as far as the cost share agreements that we already have on the table. You know, we've got those scheduled to be covered with debt financing. There is a chance to the bank or the lending agency could say your rates aren't high enough to cover that debt service payment as it stands right now. We're not going to lend you the money. So, you know, that's a concern as we move forward, and it is a possibility. So just kind of full picture there.
I'm glad you brought that up because we were there on a really good track where we were getting this low interest loan money from the state and we were doing well. Well, when you have to go out to the conventional institutions to borrow this money, they're a little more, I'll say strict. I don't mean strict, that's not the word I'm looking for, but they look at things a little differently sometimes than the funding agencies that know the business we're in.
And the
makes
local
sense.
government
Yeah.
commission will be involved.
Yes, yeah.
Because it's an improvement to
That's right.
real property.
We realize that things have changed dramatically, everything. Our expenditures in our homes, things have changed.
Right.
Things that we used to get for a lot less than what we do now. Things have changed with that. And so our communities is the same thing. Our services, you mentioned the fact that we have to think about, are we gonna cut services or we're gonna get the same service? We can't do the same things with the same amount of money. So we have to look at that and, establishing our budgets and, just everything around us. So keep that in mind as we look. Look and see that our, costs for living in Winterville, as far as taxes and things like that, are a lot less than the other communities as far as percentages are. So it's a hard thing to do, to raise fees for anything, because we, as a council, have to pay the same things too. We all reside in Winterville, and so we know how it hurts. We know that and those of us senior citizens, and I know you all get tired of us saying it, that live on fixed incomes, our money does not go as far, but our needs are still there. So we keep all those things in mind as we look at what things we can do, what things we can change, and things we can do better. I was on the board when it came on. I got a degree in fire departments 20 years ago, so we know about all that had to happen. And we are very thankful for the growth that has occurred in the relationship between the two departments during that time. And we'll look forward to, them working together and all of us working together to make sure our town still performs in the way it has in the past.
Well, I think you definitely, and I hope council knows without question that staff is sensitive to the fact that our citizens already are paying more in so many things we don't currently control, groceries, gas, housing, et cetera. And we are sensitive to that. At the same time, we also know what the cost of doing business is and know that that's increasing. So again, it's the balance that we consistently try to keep as equal as possible.
So before we get ready to decide our next steps, I was looking through the budget, and I was looking at our council budget, and there is a line item for travel, meals, lodging, and mileage of $65,000 proposed. I feel like all departments have made cuts. I think that's something that we might can look at, and a reduction we might can experience unless there's something I am missing.
We will certainly take any decisions that council would like to make to your departmental budget.
Councilwoman Smith, you said for us as
For the
town.
council.
I agree with that. And you said that's travel?
That it
The
is
travel line item?
simply, it is noted as travel, meals, lodging, and mileage. And so, in comparing it to like all the other departments, I think that is an area that we might be able to make a sacrifice ourselves. We ask each of our departments, we ask our residents.
How much is usually spent for that line item?
Well, I think it's,
For the 25-26, the amended budget said 59.4, but in addition to that 65 is a 34 professional development, and then, so I feel like that is an area of sacrifice that we can give.
Town Manager Parker, the professional development, is that the essential trainings and then also our league memberships, or is that not professional?
memberships come out of dues and subscriptions.
Okay, so it's,
So the professional development would be the registrations for the conferences
And
that the council attends,
okay,
et cetera. Any of if you were to take an online training and it cost an amount, that kind of thing.
I agree that can
And
be.
there is a dues and subscriptions of 28,000, so that is all covered. And I say that, and it just,
Mhm.
I think that could be greatly reduced. And I look at that amount, 65,000, it is very close to the amount that was requested for the chamber. It's more than what was requested of the chamber, and I believe our chamber is an asset to our town, and I know there's been background discussion about perhaps looking at that and making it some kind of I think in the background emails, it was a quasi-government because it is
That
such
has
a
been
benefit
discussed,
to our
yes.
town, and maybe even a little bit through the festival.
What was the chamber's request? I missed it.
Well, they didn't put out any requests this year, but last year we funded 20,000.
20, and
I thought it was
that's what we've been funding for the last few years.
So, and I realize that there may be some mileage and things like that incurred.
But I'm just thinking, did we spend that 65,000 last year?
Well, currently in the amended budget, 59,400 has been spent
We spent last year.
the year currently.
I don't have a problem with that.
I have a question. When we're thinking about funding when we're
I'm
thinking
sorry.
about funding non-town agencies, including the Winterville Chamber of Commerce, these monies are coming out of taxpayers' money, am I correct?
It's coming out of the general
General
fund.
fund,
Yes,
which is
ma'am.
taxpayers' money. So what reports are provided to the public to review in terms of the expenditures, and how can the public get access to that? Has there been access, and if there has, please reference it. Also, when we think about what is essential, we're thinking about the historical society. Is that less essential? Who determines what is essential? And what does that look like? Yes, the Chamber of Commerce promotes businesses and, has openings and things of that nature. But who determines what's essential and what is not essential? And then where are documentations for expenditures? That's my question. And I hope my question is not taken, the wrong way. It is a question that is due when it's coming out of taxpayers' money.
Sure, Councilwoman Hawkins, if you'll recall, the chamber, as well as all other non-town agencies, in the years that they've been funded, make application to the town. That application requires the agency to denote how they would spend the amount of money that they request. And then at March 30, or on March 31st, or by March 31st of each year, they have to submit an annual report which shows their budget, how the money the town gave was spent, who they served in Winterville, et cetera. So that was recently provided hard copy to council. And the chamber's report should have the same information that most of them have, and that is there. Yes, ma'am.
I'd just like to chime in, and, I know we're at a juncture that we need to give you all guidance on next steps, but as far as bringing up the chamber, as I stated as you said, the background or my email, I'd like, again, to request that we align the chamber with economic development, business retention, community promotion, and small business support. So if the town chooses to fund the chamber, again, I believe it should be structured as a specific economic development contract or service agreement with, as we're all talking about, clear deliverables and so on and so forth. However, I do feel as though that we should get guidance from you, Terry, as the town manager, the finance officer, and the town attorney regarding the proper classification, legal authority, funding source, and any required scope of work or reporting expectations if we are going to provide a contract of such, because at best, it is still a non-town agency. However, it does have, great value for our businesses. So I think that, yes, we can talk about it, but I think getting those appropriate guidances from you all about how to classify or reclassify the Winterville Chamber, I think that at this point, it should be tabled.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. So I think I'm taking away from the comments that you'd like staff to work on a recommendation potentially of if there were to be a relationship with the chamber, how it might be structured.
I think there needs to be a relationship, but we need to, as we were talking about reclassifying or justifying the Winterville Library not as a non-town agency, right?
Right.
So I think that that should happen with the chamber.
Okay.
And again, to Councilwoman Hawkins' point, personally, I'm not saying that the Senior Citizens Club and all other non-town agencies are not of value. However, with the vitality of the chamber, I think that there should be a service contract or business agreement, just not in the line item or either classified as a non-town agency, if that makes sense.
It does. And we can come back with that. In terms of moving forward, I think staff, in all honesty, there's really not a large place to go except to look at our reserves and to try to determine for this year
Yes.
how to get these funds balanced. And we can certainly try to do that over the next day and a half, and be prepared on Thursday for an update. And we can do that update in a multitude of ways, whether you want us to update you in a non-meeting setting, we can certainly do that, provide the documents accordingly. However council would like to proceed forward, staff certainly remains ready to work with you. We're prepared to have a meeting, but, you know, I know that there were some questions about the schedules of some of you all that have, I know this is a busy time of year in a lot of ways, so just let me know what you want to do.
So make it clear, we still are giving our Historical Society, senior citizens, and what's the other?
The
And the
chamber
Watermelon Festival,
and the chamber,
and the chamber in-kind donation,
yes. Well,
Those-
in-kind services.
in-kind services. Those are things we're keeping within our budget anyway. Those things to those things. So as far as non-town agencies are concerned, we're looking at the chamber.
I heard that council wants staff to take a look at chamber in terms of sort of bringing them under a potential quasi-governmental umbrella as well, with some funding associated, potentially.
I mean, are we all in agreement on that? We don't have a motion.
It
Are we
would
all
be,
in agreement? Can we get a motion on that?
I make a motion that we,
No, I was getting ready to say, you know, I did make a statement, you know, with the class that I attended and what was said and done. I really don't understand how we operate on. Do we operate by the North Carolina League of Municipality guidelines when they recommend and support or give us guidances or try to give us some help on growth and developing and infrastructure and you know, ideas on maintaining along with our town manager, now our town manager right there and her staff. I just don't understand how we can just split it in half and say, we're gonna save $100,000 and we got a $10 million deficit. And then we're picking up one or two here and there, and because we feel like they are important. And then I'm hearing also that all of them are important, the one that we provide service or help along the way. You know, minimal repair, I think that's included with that also.
not our program.
Not our program.
Rebuilding Together put in a request, but that's not for our program.
Okay, well. And the Watermelon Festival, you know. If you try to measure something, it's hard to measure something like that, you know, especially a program. And you're talking about the Watermelon Festival, for instance. I hear that it brings in revenues. It brings in ones that looking for a place to live, to raise their family. And they found out that we are one of the safest communities in the nation. They taught what, 20?
Well, in North Carolina. In North Carolina.
Just in North Carolina. I was told we was rated in the top 20.
That would be
in the nation.
wonderful, but I believe the measuring area was North Carolina.
Well, we'll stick with North Carolina then.
I mean, I still think that's great.
Yeah, that's great. But when you advertise and all of that, to me, that's just as much as important than anything else. And then if you look at, we got ones already employed here, does this type of work. We got Stephen. But yet and still, I know that there can be a little cross-section of knowledge and training. And, I keep forgetting her name.
You have Tristan.
Kristen.
She's handling economic
And
development.
she handled economic development. That's her job. Diane handled recreation. I mean, and does an excellent job. I mean, I don't know why we have to have all these bits and pieces.
Well, I
But
think
yet
if you
and
look at,
still-
I mean, Rebecca did, this is just a chamber statement.
Okay.
Rebecca did a pretty detailed presentation about what the chamber does. And there are many things the chamber does that we don't do. I
understand.
just want to say that they have some economic development components, but the heavy lifting is really done here. However, but there's a lot of overlap and interaction. I just wanted to say that. I'm not lobbying one way or the other. I just wanted to get that out there.
But I just want to let you know that all of those agencies that we're speaking of are very, very important. And once we start looking at and start pulling out one, we send a bad message. Even though that we feel like it might do something different than the other one does, and they do. Everybody have their own space, that section that they provide and they give back. The senior citizens come together. We give them back to them and what they have done to help bring this community where it's at today, you know.
As a point of clarification, if I may, in 2010, I gave a report to council as the assistant town manager where I recommended you all cease non-town agency funding then.
You said 2010?
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody did, yes. But it took me a long time to open my eyes when I went to that training. And I know you was talking about cutting training. I mean, you know, the opportunity of
Well,
traveling.
no travel. I mean,
But-
there's still, there is $30,000 for training.
But I was getting ready to say that if we're gonna be part of something, and especially we have to pay fees, be a member, and we are a member of the league and all of that.
Yes.
I mean, it takes us have to be there present a lot of times. Some may not want to go. Some do.
They don't
It
have the
just-
opportunity to attend everything.
Right,
Working full-time.
exactly. So I'm just saying, I do have the opportunity to go. And I don't like, I would like for it to continue. if we could. That part. But I know I have said a whole lot. I'm reminiscing on everything has been said and done tonight. I haven't said that much because I'm listening. Because what we are talking about, like you have said, we have talked about the fire department. I mean, yes, you know, I was on the fire department at the time. Chief was too. You know, with all this happening. So we know what went on. We know the reason why it was separated. But we don't want to go, we don't need to go back. And that's the reason why I don't want to talk about it, because it's time for us to do this number here, to go forward. So it won't help me one bit if we go back and talk about all the details that went on. What can we do this day forward to make this town better? And something that Councilwoman Hawkins said, what caused us to be in a $10 million deficit?
Again,
I'm just saying, and it's like you said, through the years.
well,
But-
let me clarify. That is 10 million more in request and cost than we have the revenue to cover. I think deficit, and I've used that term because that's what it technically is, between revenue and expenses, but with some of the other entities in and around us that are having financial challenges, I want to be very clear. There's no money missing, there's no lack of managing our money appropriately. It is $10 million more across all funds in costs and requests than there is revenue to cover. So I just wanted people listening and all to understand that is not, we're missing $10 million, that is not any of that other than more needs than we have the revenue to cover. So thank you for letting me put that in there.
Okay, thank you, but still, we're speaking now, there's a possibility that we might have to cut some service, improve a certain area in our department. I mean, what we give to our citizens, I think they deserve it, every bit of it,
Any recommendation would not be an assertion that the citizens don't deserve it. It would be simply business decisions on how to balance the budget.
Yes. And, it's a lot of things that come to us that we don't talk about openly a lot.
I know.
But you have taught, you hit on some things on our last meeting that a lot of citizens are concerned about. How we do our increase. I got beat up on that from last year. I mean, but I'm okay, because I think our staff deserve it. But this year, I think they deserve the same or even better. But I know that you can't, what they say, draw blood out of a turnip. I've never heard of that before, hey. That means that if the funds are not there, you can't make it happen. You can't do a whole lot of increases. Our debt ratio, how much debt have we talked about? Things that we're gonna have to finance. We got something getting ready to hit. Has everything has been active yet that we're going to finance, that we already had approved?
You have a schedule behind
That's
tab
right,
9.
I see that. That's the reason why I asked
That
that.
has your
But
debt
we haven't
service.
even talked about that. We haven't even addressed that, have we?
Well, we've addressed the things that we've approved in the budget currently, but that doesn't include what we're planning on financing in the new budget, because we'll have to pass the new budget. Does that answer your question? Okay. You're welcome.
But those are the things that concerns me.
It concerns us every day.
Yes, ma'am.
I think
And
about,
Also, and I'm going to say one more thing. How close are we hiring a chief for police?
We have received our applications. Angie and I are working on a process, almost said process. I believe we received 13 applications.
So it should be in place hopefully within the next 3 months.
I hope so. I believe so. Assuming a number one candidate comes out of that pool, yes.
Recommendation. This is one of my recommendations. And I'm stepping out. And it's been on my heart and spirit for a long time. Our department heads. I said it once before. I said it in the past. You might remember. All of our department heads, I would love for you all to be living in our town. Every one of you. Because whenever a change is happening in your department, if you are living in this town, it'll affect you just like it'll affect the council. All the council here lives in this town. Look, I'm not saying that I'm just saying maybe in the future, when we do hire new employees. That's one of the things that we need, especially at the department head. I'm asking, and I know this is budget time. Look at her, I know she,
Mr. Moore, you can't require that.
you can't require that?
You can't require that.
You
You
can't
all
put that
have,
on the
you all
application.
have to live in town. You require me to live in town. I am not allowed to require that of our department heads. Can certainly request it, can certainly cheer them on, but that changed some time ago.
It was, like I said, it's a request that I would love to see.
I understand.
Because to me, that's very important whenever we have a situation in their department. That whenever we talk about increases or something that need to be purchased or whatever, it's gonna affect them also.
Well, we're very fortunate that we have a crowd, whether they live in town or not, that they treat the town's money like they do their household
Oh, yes.
finances, and
I believe it.
they're pretty conservative.
But those are the type of things that I get feedback on.
I understand.
I just want to make this comment. I started serving before we had someone in economic development.
You did?
And in my service during that time, I was wondering why our sister city had so many things coming to her. And I was, like, well, why they have this, why they have this? Well, it was all because they had a person doing that was working with economic development. And, Stephen was hired first as economic
Yes,
development.
correct.
That's right.
And, he's been doing a great job with it. And I am so glad that we have someone working with that for our community. I know sometimes we get criticized because of the breweries, but remember, there was nothing over there. Nobody was in those places. Now, it's people out there, children out there playing and everything. Also, I would like, as far as training opportunities, prior to my election, the town of Winterville paid for me to attend a program in Raleigh that trained women for public service. And I was not an elected official at that time. So training opportunities provided in our town I think they've been beneficial. I don't think that 19 years later, I am as knowledgeable of what I should do as I was when I started. Can we get a motion to direct staff as to what we would like to see them do? Would that be in order now, Ms. Parker, or?
Sure, we'll take
Okay.
any direction.
Okay, whatever
Councilwoman.
direction we want them to take, whether it's, including the chamber or watermelon festival, whatever, let's give them some direction so that in the next couple of days, they can work toward what our view is for our citizens here in Winterville.
So I would make a motion that staff explore the option of including the chamber as a quasi-governmental in guidelines, checking guidelines with the league and any other legal ramifications, and just bringing back findings.
All right, we have a motion on the floor.
I have a question.
Can we get a second before we have?
Okay.
Yeah, we need a second. Well, I'll second the motion.
Okay.
Now we can go on.
Sorry about that.
I do, again, for discussion or question, we are at a point that we're talking about the budget and giving you all guidance to go back and research, review, apply fund balance, general funds, et cetera, to balance the budget. Is that what you're looking for at this juncture, or to go back and look at, funding the Watermelon Festival or the chamber? I think that we have some guidance or ask for guidance regarding that, to include the attorney, so on and so forth, to see what that looks like as far as aligning those different non-town agencies as a business contract, so on and so forth. But at this juncture, are we just wanting to get you all to go back and apply the appropriate funding for balancing the budget.
That's definitely helpful, where I'm looking for that. And if there's any additional thing in the budget specifically
Okay.
you would like us to focus on.
Okay.
Did okay, thank.
Could you restate your motion again, Councilwoman?
It was simply to instruct staff to investigate the possibility of creating a quasi-governmental for the Winterville Chamber and just bring back information based on legal guidance and the items that Mr. Moy has brought up from the league.
Get funding in that? Should funding be included in their recommendation?
At this point, I don't think that would be appropriate. We don't know if that's something that we can go forward and do, because we have voted not to do non-town agencies. So unless it becomes a quasi,
I think we can bring back the recommendation, and then if you also choose to want to fund them based off of what we bring back, then I would assume you're not looking to exceed what they have historically asked for, 20,000. You could certainly do something less, but I wouldn't imagine you'd want to do more.
Motion was made by Councilwoman Smith, seconded by Councilwoman Robertson. Are you ready for the question? All in favor of this motion, please raise your hand. All opposed? Great. So the motion fails. Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Robinson, will you entertain another motion
Yes.
regarding budget? I would like to make a motion that we reduce the line item for council, the travel, meals, lodging line item by $50,000, so from $65,000 to $15,000.
65 to 15? All right, you hear the motion? No second? Part of my reason for not seconding it is because to go to, City Vision, registration is like close to $400 each, when I understand. And,
The two main conferences that council usually attends, main ones are City Vision and Electricities, and those are not, not cheap, just because it's the cost of things today.
Would registration not fall under professional development and education? There's
Yes,
$30,000
usually.
allotted for that. And there's also another $28,000 allotted for dues and subscriptions, and this is for council.
Dues and subscriptions, I would ask that you not touch, because that is your memberships to the league, to the School of Government, to Mideast, to those organizations that you speak of, that we lean on for information.
So all of those necessary things are included in other line items. This is simply meals, lodging, and mileage.
Are there any other directives for council, from council to staff, as far as our budget is concerned?
I'm sorry, did that fail for lack of a second? Okay.
Any other directives?
I would like to make a motion to have staff to go and review, but, I'm sorry? Oh, I'll wait. Oh. No, you're fine. Do you have anything that you'd like to say? Okay. No, you're fine.
I'm sorry that I.
That's fine. So I'd like to make a motion that staff go to review and revise the current budget to bring it to a balanced budget responsibly, utilizing fund balance and, what was the other one? I'm sorry.
Retained earnings.
Retained earnings.
A second.
So my question is, and I'm probably, might be a little off, because doing two things at one time. Are you prohibiting staff from looking at raising any rates? Are you saying that we want staff to look at maybe raising some rates in order to balance the budget?
I think that based upon what the guidance from the town manager at this time, that wasn't something that staff was gonna look at, that you guys were gonna look at and help me, correct me if I'm wrong, you were gonna look at, fund balance and
Retained
retained
earnings.
earnings, is that correct? Or were you looking at?
It is predominantly the only fund where that won't work because
water.
is water.
Okay, gotcha. What was your recommendation regarding that? Was that to increase at this time, or did you say that would possibly next year?
Definitely next year. A rate increase is needed now, obviously. We did not formally bring that forward.
Okay.
So other than cuts, which there's not a lot of meat to cut in that department, because, I mean, it provides a service, then a rate increase would be the next best thing.
So in terms of discussion, I would discourage a rate increase at this time, but look forward for the future. We are midst a war or another war. Gas prices are high. We have the sewer getting ready to increase by $8.20, and we are still midst a power cost adjustment. So I think it would be better to prepare our town rather than even consider that at that time. Thanks for bringing it, sharing the different intricacies of it, but I don't think an increase should be considered at this time.
So the motion is to bring back a balanced budget with no rate increase.
Yes, with utilizing the fund balance and retained earnings.
Yes.
And I seconded it.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Are you ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your hand. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all. Mayor Pro Tem, in terms of Thursday night, does everyone, would you rather have an in-person meeting to clear up those, where we are and how we got there, or would you like some other method?
I think in-person affords us the opportunity to have a better, a thorough discussion, look at information, decipher what we need to do prior to a vote. And we know that we have to meet on June 1st, so
Yes, ma'am.
Thursday would be more beneficial.
Okay. We're prepared for that. I just wanted to make sure we covered all bases. That's all.
Any other questions or anything? I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Brenda Harrell, second by Councilman Moore. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Means adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
If I could ask y'all, I know we've adjourned, y'all want to eat dinner on Thursday? No? No, Don? No. Then we'll try to make it
An additional expense.
quick.